Hello and welcome to the Women Changing the World podcast. I'm your host, Olivia D'Souza, and in today's episode, I am talking with Heidi Conway. Hello, Heidi. Welcome.
Hello, it's great to be here, Livy. I'm so excited.
So
It's
excited
really
to
good.
meet you. I have read your bio and see what you are doing in the world, and it's an area I'm really interested in, but I will let you introduce yourself. Who is Heidi Conway?
Oh, we're having fun already. Uh, Livy, who is, how long do you have? No. So I love that question straight up because that's what inspires me to find out who our future generation are. And even my friends and anyone who I meet, I really want to know who they are. And so, thank you again. Thank you for asking. And that's a big part of the change that I'm helping create in the world is help people be who they are so they can authentically express themselves. So, that all comes down to education. And that's what I'm an advocate for in self directed education.
Yes, I should mention, of course, that you are here because you are one of the authors in the Women Changing the World book, which is so exciting. And so, yes, you want to shake up the education system or at least offer an alternative to what's there at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I think people are definitely looking, and the chapter really is about from contention to connection. And the contention in what we're seeing with kids, and we look at specifically teenagers from ages 8 to 18, but we really focus on the teenagers predominantly as well. And what I see is they've got a foot in each camp. They're being told that they can be all that they want to be and be who they are, and yet there's this curriculum and parents saying, in order to succeed in life, you better do this and this and this. So, oh, but you be who you are, you know. So these poor kids have got a foot in each camp. And then, especially around teenage years when they're discovering who they are, they're trying to work all of that out as well. And they've got a foot in each camp. They actually get confused. And that's where I believe a lot of the mental health issues come from that anxiety of who am I? Who do I need to be? I'm being told many different things, to be successful, it's this, and yet I have this inner drive to be who I am. They're giving me permission to be who I am, but are they really? And they may not process it that way. However, working with my own boys and coaching many mums of teenagers, when we clear that up and we make that, we help the children realize that they can be all they can be, and the mother and the father can be the change for that as well and find themselves in the process if they haven't already. Yeah, there's major change and ease that comes from that.
Okay, so could we backtrack to what started this for you?
Well, I've been a coach since 2001. I was a professional environment and safety manager, and I was told by many people that I should be a coach or a counselor. And so I ended up investigating that and pursuing that. Always was interested in self-development. So in 2001, I undertook a coaching course. From 2002, then I trained other people to become coaches. And so where a coach is a person who, a life coach, closes the gap between where a person is and where they choose to be. So where a psychologist or a counselor needs an understanding of the past, a coach helps people move forward. So I did that for many years and then did contracts for, using my science degree in health and safety. And and what I found more and more is that even on the train, seeing people on the train when I went off to the corporate gigs that I had, people putting on their lipstick in the train or falling asleep in the train and obviously not enthused being who they, what they were going to and their jobs or so, and not really having much satisfaction. So I noticed that. Was always coaching at night. And as I said, I've trained people to become life coaches as well. So that was one part of it, that seeing adults not satisfied with their life and what they were doing. The other component is my own children. So when they were boys 8 and 11, I was told that the 11-year-old was not writing at school. And I'm like, he can right, what's that all about? Like, I don't understand. Let's see what we can do there. So I took him out of school, and a week later I took his 8-year-old brother out of the school because I was being told that he wasn't focusing, but he was enjoying the friendships and social life at school, but he wasn't focusing, apparently, according to grade 3 teacher. He was top in his maths, but apparently not focusing in the other subjects. So we said, okay, let's come home to enjoy the social side again. The 8-year-old wanted to go back to school in 4th term. I took them out just after school photos. I was so attached to the school system. Just after school photos. I took them out, took my eldest out first because he is on the spectrum. And I thought, well, coping with the change, we'll look at him first. And then he was going to be ready to go back in grade 7. Well, within 2 weeks, we absolutely loved this home education, what we were doing. And I came from the approach, because that's all I knew, I came from the approach of obviously being a mum and being a coach. So I sat them on the mats and, these big crash mats these boys had, and said, if you knew you were on the planet for a reason, what is it? And they both told me like this. And I said, okay, well, let's do that with our eyes, ears, hearts open, and we'll follow down those paths. So, one wanted to design and manufacture a new car. So that set us on an adventure of the Industrial Revolution and looking at different car magazines and drawing different cars and putting on a car show and looking at the business side of putting on a car show and connecting him with people in that industry, going to them, looking at the real estate required to put on a show. So,
which son did you say was doing this?
The older one. Yeah. So he was looking at, so we covered a lot of the curriculum. Like we had to do budgets for this and, put on merchandise. And so he made his T-shirts and all the time we had music down one side of what they were doing, and they were in a band. And on the other side, I taught them and introduced them to various business courses. So that was the older boy. And I will say, in the first week where the other one was still at school, the younger one was still at school, I said, today is writing day. Let's write something, write a little story. And he started drawing. I said, what are you doing, mate? And he goes, Mum, I can't write unless I've met the characters.
Wow. That's interesting.
So in 40 minutes, when you've got to write a story at school, in preparation, first term grade 6, in preparation for NAPLAN in grade 7, a year later, you've got 40 minutes to start preparing for it. My son, who was told he wasn't writing, just did not have time to meet characters or get his ideas down in a drawing because he was a creative thinker, and that's the way he learned. And we ended up doing profiles on who they were as well. And it was very clear that he is a creative boy and he's got lots of ideas and needs to get those down in a creative way before he ends up structuring it into in a few sentences. And then the paragraphs for a story. So learning and knowing how my boys learnt was a big part of it. And the other one that wasn't focusing, he had his ideas too. He wanted to invent something small with a big impact on people. He was definitely could focus, and he still can focus when he's interested in what he's focusing on. He wasn't interested in what was being taught in the school environment. And yet now he's upstairs right now in his room, and he's got a 3D printer, and he's working on animations and moving animations and using Blender, and he knows his path already, what he needs to do and to get into university, or his option is to create his business straight away, or or both. So, and he's 14.
Wow. So I love the idea of that, and of course a lot of us now have experienced remote learning, which I know is not at all the same thing as
glad you
homeschooling. I know, but last year, being in Melbourne, we've had way too much of this. So last year I did attempt to create some sort of home learning and not so much remote learning. And I can't say that it really succeeded as idealistically as I would have liked, or as wonderfully as you have just described. So I'm really interested in how you have created a solution. What have you come up with?
Well, definitely, I've realized the coaching skills that I have and I use when I work with my clients, I actually teach them those skills. So we've got those skills available, and instead of where I used to teach life coaches, now I'm teaching parents, particularly mothers. There's a few fathers that have come to actually teach them the coaching skills and how to hold the space for your child and listen to what they want to do. So the 17-year-old now is doing music full time because at 14 I lost him on any of that sort of learning. When I say I lost him, he wasn't as interested more in that, I'll say, curriculum focus, but yet he was doing his own thing in line with the curriculum. He was just teaching himself music. He was just different instruments. So he was in a band teaching himself, and he was a drummer. And so he just taught himself keyboard and ukulele, and then he did some singing, and he did all these different guitar, bass. And then I said, well, that's fine, love. It's brilliant, actually. But what is it going to mean to have these skills, that if these are part of your skills and talents now that we've pivoted, because we always said that we'd do what we're born to do with our eyes, ears, hearts open, like do what we want to do. And so, what's it going to mean? And we found certificate 3 in music, and now he is doing a Bachelor of Music. So, to answer your question, what I have is basically looking at the path that I have taken with my boys, and we've packaged that up in order to help other parents find the space, hold the space for their children so that they can discover who they are as well. So, these coaching skills, we've also got what we call Changemaker learning dojos. So they're growing more and more as well. There's one where my son goes, facilitated by, this one's not a Changemaker one as such yet. It's where Changemaker Teens Thrive at the Redland Shire here in Brisbane in Queensland. So there'll be more and more dojos. Now, what I mean by dojos is learning centres where kids come together and they work on what they want to work on. They might put the facilitator strews some ideas on what they can do. So this is a great way to still get that social aspect. Strews ideas what they can do. They can participate if they want to. If they don't want to, they don't have to. And they can work on their own thing in that space in a social environment. So that's anywhere between 2-3 days a week in the learning. We call them dojos because it's a place of finding your way.
I am just interested, a bit of clarification, I guess. So, what exactly you do? So, you helped people who want an alternative. Do you help parents know how to effectively homeschool their kids, as well
Yes.
as having a place that they can go? Is that what the dojo
Yeah, the
is?
learning dojo. So,
Okay.
and we also help them within the home to set up the dojo. They can set up their own micro dojo. We're affiliated with, or we say inspired by, Galileo, which is a worldwide, world-class educational, like online education company. So we're affiliated with them. So Changemaker Teens, it can find whatever they want to learn on the Galileo platform as well as. And again, when the child realizes what they can do, and to allow the parent to support that 100%, even though it presses buttons. And this is what the remote learning, when you were remote learning going through, is that there would have almost been a little bit, because you're still in touch with the school, but there would have been a little bit of de-schooling where the rules of school, you didn't have to put up your hand to go to the toilet anymore and things like that. And, so there was just some of the rules and the relax, and then not having that structure. So we're used to performing in such a way for the gold star, for example, or the rewards. Well, at home, you don't need to do that. You can just be who you want to be. You don't have to perform. So, yeah, we definitely help in people de-schooling. I don't know if you're familiar with
Right, yeah.
that term at all, but to help them get comfortable. Like even when I see, and there's layers of that de-schooling as well. So basically, if we help the parent find out who they are, and sometimes we focus on the parent and finding what they want to do, that helps the teen or the child. Or if we give some suggestions and help the child find and mentor the child within a dojo or directly, and we can do that directly by offering what we've got is a talent dynamic for young people. So it's a survey in finding out who they are. And then we debrief them and it finds out how they learn, how they lead, and how they love. So that's crucial. Like you think you know, when I say you, we think we know our children when they're in the school environment. When you bring them home, wow, you really see, and you would have seen that, how your child learns a little bit. You know, when you had them at home, you saw a little bit more of what they were like. Now, if you take that screen away from the teacher talking with them and you say, well, what would you like to learn? You really see what they're interested in. And that's called unschooling, you know, that what they are interested in to follow that path. Yeah, so
I mean, that sounds wonderful and I love the idea of it. What if your actual experience is that they want to go on YouTube and they want to play a bunch of video games and it's not this, you know, beautiful idea of I want to have it create something, or if it doesn't seem that particularly constructive to you.
That's part of deschooling, my love. That's part of deschooling. I'm sure that's a question many listeners have. My recommendation is to actually sit beside the child and go, what do you like about this? Okay, what do you like? And just watch and just see what they like. Because from something like that comes looking at the background on how they make the background in that game or whatever they're looking at. So to get specifically on what do you like about this? I'm curious. I'm interested. Okay, why? Like, why do you like that? And how does it make you feel? And okay, so then you realize that your child likes to feel that way. What else can we do that makes you feel like that way when you're learning? So we've got this, when you say one of the key things, there are probably 4 things that have got me to this stage that drives me. One is what my grandmother used to say. And she was German, and she said 2 things, immer geradeaus and immer mit der Ruhe. So our German listeners will probably understand that. And what the translation, however, is always move forward and always with ease. So in order to do that is to be where you are with the child, you know, with anybody. This is where holding the space, you know, you start exercising those muscles of holding the space, is be where the child is at and get curious. There's no rush. So watching YouTube, playing a game, what you doing, love? That's interesting. You know, and if they close the books and don't want you to see and said, it's all right, it's okay. I'm just curious. It's okay. You know, and you gain that trust with your kid, with your child. And if not now, you say, well, if you don't want to show me now, you're in the middle of something. Of course, I know what it's like to be interrupted in something. How about when you're finished, you know, I'll make you a snack and, you know, we'll talk about what you've done. I'm really curious. And they go, wow, Mum's interested in what I'm doing, you know. And gradually, you know, you get to know each other.
So a lot of listening, attentiveness, and curiosity, and meeting them where they're at.
Yes, absolutely. Walk where your feet are. And, you know, when I say so we've translated what my grandmother says in the Changemaker Teen philosophy and the coaching we do is always onwards with ease. So ease and joy are so important in what we do. And then they say, well, life's hard, learning's hard, school's hard. You go, well, there might be tricky bits or there might be hard moments, but we can, with awareness, you know, and this is where my safety background comes in. My dad was always, be careful, watch out. No wonder I went down, you know, did the science degree and went down in the safety avenue. Is all about, rather than be careful, is about be aware. So if we move forward with awareness, it can be done with ease. And if there's a trigger that something doesn't feel right, well, we lean into it and go, that's interesting. What's that all about? So we lean into it instead of going, oh, this is scary, you know. So we go, oh, there's something. It's usually meant to teach you something about the opposite of that as well. So the opposite of anxiety or, you know, and I'm definitely not playing down, you know, clinically diagnosed anything. And it works in line with any other treatment a child can have as well. And, you know, we've worked in line with doctors and counsellors before as well. So that's one thing, what my grandmother said. Also, what I did say actually earlier is the evidence that I got of the adults not being happy and obviously not themselves. The evidence of kids not being more and more, not being happy and satisfied. There's also parents, I mean, COVID's been integral really, and this remote learning in people rethinking education from a different viewpoint. I know there are mothers that don't want to go back. If they've been working at home, don't want to go back to full-time work and put their children in before and after school care anymore because they've enjoyed it. Their kids have enjoyed it, especially the ones that might have just started prep. They've never been in before and after school care. And here the officers of the parents are asking them, now it's time to come back. It's come back to the workplace, and they don't want to. I mean, the child doesn't want to. That mum or dad does that. So, for various reasons, homeschool is definitely, or home education is definitely growing worldwide at the moment. And we say COVID's been a push to help people do what they love to do as adults, where they have to restructure and do something different. And they've had an idea that they might want to home educate their children. And it's been, so people are pulling their children out of school. But we say rather than the push or pull, what if we could do it with ease and joy? What about if we can show you how to home educate your children in a simple way, a simple, self-directed, social and sustainable way? That's what Changemaker Teens is all about, for sure.
Wow. So is there a structure in the day? What does a day look like?
Yes, that's not mentioned in the book. It's definitely what we do. So it's up to the child if the child needs structure. So as the child matures, we're looking at being individualized learning, self-directed, and then self-organized. Now, sometimes it's not until they're 15, 16, 17 that the self-organization clicks in, but there are levels of that as well. So when you're talking about structure, it's what the child and the family need. It's not all about, the parent and the lifestyle of the family, what they want is out the window. It's just about the child. It has to work for the family too. So we can give an introductory session and listen to what's happening in the family. We can say, well, this would be the right path for you. Maybe enrolling in a distant ed school, or maybe going to a learning dojo, or maybe this online structure, or maybe Montessori structure, but online, traditional classical. Like some people want that classical education still, and some people are totally unschooling and radical unschooling. So to listen to the family, what will be right for them, that's what we can help to and help direct you. And if I can't help, we've definitely got a team of homeschool educators that can assist. Yeah, we can assist with that.
So if people are looking for a way to be able to remove the limits from their children and to support them becoming who they want to be, you're a resource that they can turn to along the way and help hold their hand, I guess, and go and give them guidance.
Definitely.
Right.
When times get tricky. We can help them. So, as I said, I haven't mentioned that in the book, but what I wrote about in the book is one particular part, an experience that happened to me recently, which what that did, it sped what I'm doing for mothers and families. It sped it up because, and have we got time to share that story a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So being who I am, I move forward and do things with the intention of love. And as I was moving through this whole process and requirements for COVID, and it wasn't always, but there was one occasion that I had walked into a chemist to get a script for my son for his skin. And I just dropped the script off and went next door to Woolworths, and I came back and I didn't check in on the way the first time, and no one said anything or so. And the second time I came in, a lady came and asked me to check in. I said, I was just here. I'm just picking up my script. I've just got to duck in, pick it up and go again. And she followed me to the cash register. The pharmacist came out. There were 4 women on the other side of the counter and 2 men in the queue. And I was basically attacked. And I wasn't being a radical and not doing anything. In that moment, I actually, and this is what we do with education, we ask, well, why am I sending my child to school? And that's what we ended up doing. Why am I sending my child to school? And I ask here, why am I scanning? And I realized for me around that time, it was about fear, that I was doing it because I was afraid that I would need to be contacted, or afraid that and I don't do anything out of fear. So I was not myself, and I was not in integrity with myself to do that. So the point of all of that is that I was literally attacked, and we went through that, and I came the closest to what I think teenagers or people feel when they have anxiety. And that's not a part of my life at all, to feel anxious or anxiety. And it was like an amazing gift. I left there after that, a lot of words from others to me, and I left and was crying beside the car, and a lady came to me and we sorted that out. And I was prompted to ask myself a coaching question that I often ask my clients: on a scale of 0 to 10, how do you feel about such and such? And I was prompted to ask myself in that moment, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much was I allowed to be myself then? So whatever the impetus was, like whatever the issue was, the content, I was prompted to ask myself, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much was I allowed to be myself? And this is where changing the world really comes in. And I got intuitively, when I connected to myself after that contention, and I connected, and I heard 2 out of 10. People allow people to be themselves. 2 out of 10. And it did. And I thought, the saddest thing is there were most likely they were fathers, those 2 gentlemen in the queue. And they were yelling at me. What are their children going to grow up? I asked my husband, if you were there, if you were in the queue, and it maybe wasn't me, but it was another lady going through this, what would you do? And he said, I would have spoken up. Hey, everybody, there's no need for this. She's obviously not coping. And he would have guided me out. And I said, nobody, there was about 9 people in that place, nobody had the compassion and the change in communication to just remove me from there. And we sorted out. Not even the pharmacist to say, obviously, this isn't agreeing with you right now. We have got requirements. Let's come out the back and let's chat. Or would you like to go and have a drink? And we come back. There was just no compassion, no change in communication, and we didn't end up with connection. Needless to say, I've never been back to that chemist. But when I realised, the point there is the 2 out of 10, when I realised that, I went, I need to hurry up. I need to bring my team together even tighter and hurry up and allow these children and help parents to allow us to be ourselves. And if it brings somebody love and peace to do a certain action, and the same requirement not, what's the big deal? Because every core of my being, if I put fear in that environment, and not everyone will agree with me, and that's okay. That's okay, because I know who I am. And if I would have scanned at that time feeling fear, I am actually, what I believe, I am hurting everybody there. The planet does not need more fear. The world does not need more fear. So if I put fear in it, it did not make sense. But if I was scanning for love because I want to protect people and everything, if I had that congruently in my head, then I didn't understand. It's new for everyone. Everyone processes differently. Then if I didn't scan, I would be putting fear into the world because it was about loving people. And when we're all ourselves, when we help our kids be ourselves, when we help them find, their way in a learning dojo and help the parents hold the space, they can be themselves and the world's a different place. And then next time when I ask that question, how much do we allow each other to be ourselves? Hopefully I'll get, right up there, the 9 or 10 out of 10.
Hopefully. Yeah. I guess everyone, when you choose fear and you forget to see, the person underneath, people are just seeing what's on the surface, I guess, and going, you didn't tick that box, you're not following this, you're not doing that, and getting all defensive and on the attack. And probably everyone's a good human underneath everything, but yeah, we can bring out the division and the negativity and the sadness, I'm afraid. But yes, yeah. I'm glad you reconnected and remembered what matters and who you are, and that you're trying to help others with that too.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
Probably not your usual podcast,
but that's good. That's a good thing. All right. Now, yeah, because everything comes down to that, whether it's education or any kind of change you're making in the world, it basically comes down to that being who you really are and helping people to be who they really are and seeing the love and instead of the division and the differences. All right. Now, we are running out of time, so is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to before we wrap up?
Only to be open to the journey, and just as much as holding the space for each other, to hold the space for ourselves and to lean into anything that doesn't feel like ease, to lean into that and then enjoy the journey of that discovery. And I guess that's how I end the chapter too, is to really enjoy the journey. You can have your children learn whilst you earn. There are ways of doing that. We can definitely help you with that. And thank you. Thank you for listening and allowing us to change the world in our way. And very grateful to every woman in this book.
Well, definitely, I do think that education is one of the most important areas. It's one of the most important undertakings that we go through and that our kids go through. So thank you very much for putting your love and your skills into that. So how can people find you?
You can find me and our team on changemakerteens.com. And that's got all the links to our social media. Or if you want to email me direct, is Heidi C, because I see you. Heidi C, that's how you can remember it, at changemakerteens.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And also, if anyone wants to buy the book, I'm sure we'll put the links in the show notes for where to get the book from and also how to reach you. So thank you so much.
Definitely. Onwards with ease.
Thanks, Heidi.